my lovelies, and welcome once again to Where the Road Rises with me, your host, Eileen Curlin Walsh. I feel like I haven't talked to you for ages, so I'm just delighted to be back here on Channel 4 and equally delighted to have with us a great friend of Channel 4 and previous guest, Ken Grunke, who is the Executive Director of what we all formerly knew as PLOW's Council on Aging and is now known as Pathlights. And Ken is going to tell us today, maybe a little in general about what the council does, what Pathlights does, tell us what the meaning behind the change was, what has changed at Pathlights, and what remains the same. So thank you, Ken, for joining us, and welcome to Where the Road Rises.
Thank you, Eileen. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. Well, why don't you start before we talk about the evolution of the title of the organization? Just remind our current viewers as well as our new viewers what Pathlights, previously PLOWs, is and does for the community.
Absolutely. So the focus of Pathlights, formerly known as PLOW's Council on Aging, provides services to anyone navigating the aging life cycle with a focus on those 60 years of age and older. So it involves a variety of diverse programs and services that are all community-based focused, particularly around the 4 areas of shelter, care, safety, and also health. So we're definitely looking at continuing to provide those services, of course. If you have additional questions or information, I'll be giving some information on how to learn a little bit more about those different programs and services at the end of
Thanks, Ken. Shelter, care, safety, and health. Oh my, we could use with that kind of cradling from the beginning to the very end of our lives, not just in our senior years. I just love that. So your new name is Pathlights, which sounds beautiful and illuminating and modern. Tell us how and why you changed the name and logo. What prompted it, and how did you choose it, and what does this change mean?
Yeah, so this change comes from many years of individuals in the community and also who have been a part of Pathlights, formerly known as PLOW's Council on Aging, and really looking for a way that our name and our identity better reflects our mission, not as much as our geographic area. And so those of you who were very familiar with PLOWs, it was acronym for Palos, Lamont, Orland, and Worth townships. S, of course, was part of the Stickney many moons ago at the time. And also Council on Aging was a bit difficult to be able to say because folks immediately interpreted that as we were government owned or government run. So not only explaining the acronym, but also that confusion around council, going back to, as I said, a little bit more of what we do, the core of who we are. And that is really how the name Pathlights came about. It was definitely a very long process. So that started pre-pandemic and probably even a little bit well before my time in terms of staff, community members, volunteers, all talking about some ideas. How has aging changed? How's the organization evolved? What are maybe some of the ways that the organization can better be prepared to respond to those different changes? And so fast forward just some months before the pandemic, we started moving forward. We told the community, we're going to do this. We heard you loud and clear. So we're ready to make that investment of time and resources to do this. And of course, the pandemic hit. Yeah. So what to do? We said, you know what, we made this promise. We had a timeline and there was so much unknown with the pandemic. And of course, there still was. So it's not like we could stop existing. And instead we said, The community asked us to move forward with this project. We're going to make that commitment happen. And we did. We had board members, volunteers, staff members involved, focus groups. We brought in a professional consultant to provide that expertise that we really need in that direction. We put together a very diverse and thoughtful task group that really drove this entire process. And as a result, in February of this year, we officially became Pathlights. And it just was, I'm telling you, I still get goosebumps when I say it because it's reliving the excitement and the passion of how the community really came together to talk about this significant change for the organization.
So Ken, a recent guest on our show said we're trying to come even away from the word aging. So I love that you've come away from that we talk about adults across the later decades. And since she said that to me, I just have latched onto it because I think it sounds so much, it bestows the gravitas and the respect that our adults across the later decades deserve without somehow attaching any stigma.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you've come away from the Council on Aging, which while it had a brilliant mission, it did wonderful things, the term does, seem a little stodgy and dated. Mm-hmm. So here we are with Pathlights. So what does Pathlights represent?
So for us in the community, Pathlights really represents the opportunity to find your own path to a healthier aging lifestyle, whatever that might mean for you, and at any stage of your life cycle. It also means that it's a path that not only has multiple ways in which you can begin that journey, but also multiple ways that you can continue the journey, and you may end up in a very different way. It also means that you're not alone on it. It means that there are not only professionals and experts that are there for you, but the community is there. There are multiple people that are willing to join you on this journey at any point. And of course, the end is really the light. It's that kind of end growth that you realize about yourself as an individual to say, here's how I started my journey, here's how I ended. And we hope that the name itself really encapsulates that particular philosophy. When we talk about the tagline specifically, enriched by experience, empowered in life, it really comes from both an individual participant's perspective, but also all the individuals who are part of this journey, whoever those individuals might be. So it's as you have this experience, naturally you're enriched. And because of this, suddenly you start attaining this level of empowerment, this understanding that you can do this, that you can be a part of your choices and your decision in your life. But then also from the supporter's perspective and the partner's perspective, or anybody who's involved with that journey, they can say, I'm also enriched by the experience that I'm witnessing from this individual who is going through this milestone growth opportunity for themselves just to be healthier. So it's really meant to be a win-win and a very multi-engaging opportunity and moment for one individual.
And you talk about having involved community, all your partners, the seniors you serve in this process. It must have been absolutely soul searching because it truly required you to look at exactly what you do and what you mean and what your mission is. So I wonder if you come out the other end feeling invigorated, reinvigorated again with your mission, having examined yourselves so closely and who you are and whom you serve.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a very powerful project for everybody involved, and hopefully for those who want to still become involved with this transformation, that it really brought us to the core of what we do, but more importantly, and to your point, Eileen, it's about that we don't deliver transactional programs. This isn't a transaction. you're coming into and connecting with the organization just as much as we want to connect with you, to find a way to create this healthier opportunity so that you, the individual, can be as independent of a contributor in your community as you want to be. And that is something that is not only just rewarding, but it's incredibly empowering for the entire community to witness. So that's why we like to think that our services really aren't as effective unless we have the larger community input, buy-in, support, and partnership. It really makes the difference.
Wonderful. So new name, new tagline, and I see you also have a new logo.
Yes, yes. If you tilt it a little bit, it's a P, so it stands for Pathlights in the center there. But also, hopefully, folks see that it represents the multiple paths. And we really wanted to make sure to visualize that for individuals. It also means that that path is not walked alone, as I mentioned earlier, that there are individuals that can come into your life to be a part of that, to provide that support, direction, guidance, whatever you might need. But also, it's interesting because our logo serves as a map marker. And it really is kind of that Google Maps kind of look, but it's really to start representing, I think, the different lives in our community. And we talked about, even through some future reporting design work, what it might look like to see all of these amazing map marker Ps, pathlights, markers on a map, and see all these lives that not just us, but the community is able to change.
And I want to talk lateral stuff now as a business owner. Would you say now I haven't spent so much time deeply involved in looking at names, logos, taglines, colors, branding? Would you say that it now seems deeply important to you? Would you say that people respond a little differently? Have you noticed how people respond to the organization with an updated logo, color, tagline, and name?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really we have. I think the general feedback, of course, has been very positive, but folks are seeing us differently. They're not seeing us as the best kept secret in town. They're not seeing us as, you're defined by your geography, even though much of our services, of course, will always be within a very specific geography. But at the end of the day, they're focusing more on our mission. They're focusing on more of what's possible for this organization. We have probably received more invitations for strategic partnership at that, because of some of these changes that we have made, both visually, but also just from a communications and marketing perspective. It's very fascinating how a different look can really start getting individuals to think and talk about you in a very different way, in a very positive way. So very, very exciting results.
And Ken, if you attract partners and if you attract more funding, that is only positive for the community you serve. And how has that community changed? You talked a little bit about your mission with Pathlights. To what extent does that align completely with Plow's mission? How has your mission changed and what remains the same?
Yeah, so our mission still remains the same, our core mission of serving individuals navigating the aging life cycle. And again, a focus on those 6 years of age and older. Many of our programs, for those who have been familiar with our services, have always known that many of our programs help serve adults with disabilities as well. But then we also start communicating a little bit more through this new identity about our ability to connect grandchildren who are being raised by a grandparent, and starting to recognize and find ways to better support adult caregivers, however that caregiver is defined. So now we're starting to look at ourselves, and the community is looking at us as well, as saying your mission will always be core, but you have the door open and you're willing to have some very different conversations about how to provide support maybe it's partnership, maybe it's leadership around any aspects of the aging life cycle. And so that gets us excited to start thinking about, in addition to current programs and services like our senior shared housing, how can we do more around affordable housing? How can we do more, like I said, around caregiver support, knowing that that's such a big burden and challenge for the entire community at large? How do we become a voice and an advocate for transportation? So these are areas that, again, don't necessarily apply to our current services and programs, but because of this new umbrella, allows us to at least visit the conversation.
Yeah. And Ken, we'd be remiss if we didn't revisit the elephant in the room, what has just happened in this past year. We're starting to emerge from it a little bit now, but my experience with my senior clients and their caregivers was, as well as my own family, the effect was devastating. That community who need engagement so much, who hurts the most from isolation, were just devastated. Can you talk a little bit about how your experience with your community was with the pandemic, how you were able to whom you were able to reach and keep yourselves safe, and how you kept your seniors afloat?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else, safety was first and foremost on the top of our minds, both from a staff perspective, volunteer perspective, obviously a client perspective. But we also knew that because this is a considerable crisis, we had to step it up and step in a way that challenged us. It challenged us to think differently about how we could continue to provide those services. And especially just as much as a natural disaster causes incredible challenges, we saw that as well, where the community was responding and saying, now I can't do this, now I don't have access to this. And very simple: food, shelter, being able to continue paying a rent or a mortgage or even their bills. It was very incredible. And then we throw in the technology factor and the digital divide, and how individuals who we just didn't realize did not have basic access to technology. And so how do you communicate? And so it was a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of long days, again, like many other people I'm sure were experiencing with their teams. But at the end of the day, we ended up again working with our partners. And I can't emphasize that enough. The partners have been amazing. We could not have done this without their support. And so we found ways where we could provide special diet meals for those folks that maybe they weren't necessarily needing a home delivered meal, but now they couldn't go to the grocery store and get those ingredients that they could be able to create their own food, their own meals from, for a special diet reason. And so we were able to increase that delivery. The social isolation was incredible. And so it was a lot of, I would say, more well-being checks than we ever thought that we would be making. And just a lot out of making sure that folks continue to be healthy and safe. And then the third part of that is the access to vaccinations. That was a huge part. And again, thank you to park districts and chambers of commerce and partners, for-profit and non-for-profit alike. We were very fortunate to be able to be a participant in vaccinating over 512 people and then participating in a series of other vaccination clinics. But the communication still needs to be done about that awareness for those who are still unvaccinated. So our work is not done yet, but those are some of the extreme changes, at the same time balancing all of the ongoing programs and services that we will always continue to provide and serve, and making sure that those were in place.
Oh my gosh, man, what a mission. Were you able to access some of the pandemic relief government and state funds for Pathlights so that you could continue to reach out with the vaccination, with the tech, with, I'm sure your volunteers were now not as freely available as they had previously done, That's a huge army of support for you. Though I'm sure you're going to tell me that when it was safe for them to work again, they came back in again because of their dedication to your mission and to those seniors in need. Oh,
Absolutely.
I just have so much admiration for what you do. You are a guiding light in our community. Ken, thanks a million for those contributions and for coming on and letting us know now what Pathlights is. I know there's going to be many of our viewers who were seeing this new Pathlights and did not realize that it's a whole brand new, updated, even better than ever, PLOWS Council on Aging. Ken, how do members of our community who want to refer you, want to help you, volunteer, partner, how do they find you? How do they reach you?
Yes, the easiest way is to go to our website if you have access to that at pathlights.org. It's an incredible website that had a lot of thought put into it, so easy to navigate, a lot of different areas to be able to participate in Pathlight's mission, to be a partner, to serve, etc. Or, of course, you can always call us at 708-361-0219. And we're so thankful that we are safe enough that we're bringing in our callers, our frontline team, to be able to answer phones and not have it to go to the voice messaging system and have to return the call. So you will be getting a live operator.
Beautiful. Maybe as we start to wrap up, one, I want to make a gift to you and your organization. But before we do that, I would love to know, just philosophically, Ken, what this last, well, you've now been probably 4, maybe more years with Pathlights, with PLOWS, what your experience has been, how are we doing as a human race? How are we doing as caring for our seniors, for those across the later decades? And what has the pandemic taught you about human nature? Are we doing
Mm.
okay?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how the human being is so resilient, and that's what we saw in such a considerable and significant way. Is despite the unknown, despite the challenge, despite the crisis, folks got together on all levels and said, "We can do this." Somehow, you know it really starts speaking to the heart. And I think we hear about communities talking about the heart, the soul of a community. And sometimes I think it takes, unfortunately, a crisis or something of this degree to really demonstrate that we can come together and we have the ability to do that. So I will say that the future of this community in response not only to aging service, but human services is very bright. In fact, dare I say brilliant. There is a lot of opportunity here, a lot of amazing partnership. I mean, this is a great partnership, Eileen, with you that we've had for quite some time now. And as the more partners that can come together to create that network, that web of support around human services and a healthier aging future for all of us, we're just going to all be in a much, much better position. And so that's the part that I've seen not only organizations and for-profits alike and government entities and civic groups all coming together to do, but we have a plan, we have an interest, we're willing to do that work. So that's what makes this moment the most exciting, I think.
Resilience, togetherness, heart, and soul.
Yes.
I just can't think of any better way to end than that. And I can't think of a better leader for Pathlights than you. I am so impressed and inspired by you, Ken. And I wanted to make a gift to you and your organization of a program that I have called Share My Legacy. It's a tutorial that I have developed to help our seniors, our caregivers, all of us write our story. Not just, as you know, my bread and butter, my daily work is wills and trusts, and that's wonderful, and we all need it. But what I have noticed over the years is that people's story, as everybody, is valuable as the possessions they have accumulated. And I help them to write that into what's called a legacy letter or an ethical will. Just pulls together their childhood,
Mm,
their values, the difficult things they've gone through, what they've learned, what they want to be remembered for, their things they're most proud of, and their hopes and blessings for their family, their children. They love it. This is a little $300 program that I want you to have access to.
oh,
It's going to be complimentary for
oh,
your
thank
staff, your case managers, your caregivers, and I will teach you how to use it, how to access it, and that will draw beautiful stories because every one of those adults that you meet, every one of those humans has just lightly touched the surface, and you just find this amazing life, this extraordinary life lived with stories that are more amazing than anything you'd read in fiction. And when we collect that, you
you.
know every every adult is a library, and when we lose one of our seniors, we lose that library, and I make it part of my mission to help tell the story. So I'm going to get together with Pathlights, share that program, and show you how that can enrich your
Oh,
community.
thank you so much, Eileen. And what a time to start telling those stories.
Yes,
So thank you. Thank you
we've all
so much.
lived through this big world event. That's a story all our grandchildren should know to begin with. So we will leave it there, Ken. I know you'll come back again, be a guest, tell us how Pathlights is doing. But for now, viewers, if you want to know more about Pathlights, access their services, partner with them, volunteer, you just call the organization at the number he told us, or go to the website. So once again, great to be back right here, Channel 4. I will see you next month where the wonderful Ron Jankowski and I are going to sit down, talk about our 12 years doing programming here together on Channel 4. Maybe maybe we'll learn a little bit more about Ron. He's so used to giving us the news. Maybe we'll find out a little bit more about what is the story behind that man. So I will see you again soon. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.